Hello everyone, I'm the Nerdy Fool and welcome back to Oblivion. We left off with the intent to check out what's going on with this prophet, as well as what went down in the Anvil Chapel. So let's go see what's going on.
Yes, your children know that name if you do not. The dread Castellan of fearful legend. Oh my, to what do I owe this honor? I am but a humble prophet. What business do you have with me?
What do you know of the Anvil Chapel attack?
This is only the beginning. Umaril has returned as foretold by Pelinal Whitestrake in his dying breath.
I don't know anything about any of that. Who is Umaril?
Umaril the Unfeathered, the sorcerer king of the Aelids, who ruled over this land for long ages before the rise of men. He was cast down by Pelinal Whitestrake, but Umaril's spirit survived, and now he has returned to seek vengeance upon the gods.
Okay. I did want to know more about the Aelids. If something's going on with them, that does seem like it's going to be a cool quest. And who was Pelinal Whitestrake?
Does no one remember the old tales? Saint Pelinal, the divine crusader of legend, Alicia's companion when she overthrew the rule of the Aelids 3,000 years ago. Pelinal, with the aid of the gods, fought the Aelid sorcerer King Umaril and slew him. But Umaril's spirit survived, and he has now returned.
Just tell me who attacked the chapel.
Do you understand nothing? The blood speaks. I can read the ancient runes if you cannot. As uibala, umarale el nada rakuvar. In the alien tongue, by the eternal power of Umaril, the mortal gods shall be cast down. A curse upon Umaril's ancient foes, and a threat.
How do we stop Umaril?
Alas, Umaril cannot be stopped. Not without the aid of the gods, not without the Crusaders' relics. Without a champion, the gods are powerless to act. But who among us is worthy to wield the divine Crusaders' weaponry?
I'm guessing this is the Knights of the Nine Quest DLC, which I never played. Also, we were recently named as a paladin of one of the gods. That's got to count for something. And all of those relics I just threw at the ground by the priest in question, so yeah, I will quest for the relics.
You would quest for the holy panoply of Pelinal Whitestrake? The legendary relics that have been sought by mighty warriors throughout the ages? Are you a worthy knight?
I wouldn't really call myself a knight, but sure. No, I have no claim to fame. Yes, I am a worthy knight. Or yes, I'm the hero Kvatch.
Well then, hail, hero of Kvatch! Let me add one more voice to the never-ending chorus of praise. I'm sure one of your many devotees will be able to guide you on your way to find the Crusaders' relics.
You're not going to tell me? Tell me about the Crusaders' relics.
The weapons and armor of Pelinal Whitestrake, Alicia's comrade, granted to him by the 8 divines. He went alone into the White Gold Tower, challenged the Aelid sorcerer King Umaril to single combat, and slew him. Alas, Umaril was not truly slain, but only cast beyond the bounds of Nirn. And now he has returned to wreak his vengeance upon the gods, as was prophesied by Pelinal himself with his dying breath. Only a true knight, wielding the holy relics of the divine crusader, has a chance to defeat Umaril. But alas for Tamriel, the Crusaders' relics have been lost for many an age. Who now can succeed in the quest for the relics, where the greatest knights of legend all failed?
Also, if we need weapons and armor to defeat Umril, it's not really our shtick. So we'll see how that goes. You refer to the 8 and 1 rather than the 9 divines.
Once there were 8 divines. Then Tiber Septim became Talos, and the 8 became 9. I followed the old way of honoring the 8 while also giving due to Talos, the one who ascended.
Okay. Tell me more about Umril.
He is the enemy of all who walk free on Tamriel today, a survivor of the ancient race of alien slave masters who once ruled Cyrodiil. He was struck down by Pelennor, but by his art, Umril had bound himself to the realm of his mistress, the Daedra Lord Meridia. So he was not slain, but simply cast adrift upon the waters of Oblivion. Now he has returned to seek vengeance upon the gods who helped bring about his downfall so many ages ago.
So Umril was trapped in Oblivion, but now that Oblivion is no longer cut off from Nirn, he's able to return and get his vengeance. Makes sense. Tell me about this quest for the relics.
Are you a worthy knight?
That is what I said already. I'll say that yes, I am a worthy knight. Or we could go with no, I have no claim to fame. See if he likes humility better. Because I don't have much fame, just being the hero Kvatch, and the person who closed a couple of Oblivion gates. No big deal. No, I have no claim to fame.
A humble heart is a good starting point. The gods will decide if you are worthy to seek the relics.
How do I find the relics?
The gods grant insight to those they deem worthy. Why and how they act is not predictable. What I can tell you is that, traditionally, knights who wish to quest for the relics would walk the pilgrim's way, travel to the way shrines of the 9 divines, pray to each of the gods in turn, and ask their favor upon your quest. If the gods deem you worthy, you will be granted a sign. Go forth with the 9's blessings.
We can ask more about Umril?
He was defeated but not destroyed by Pelennor the Crusader. Now he has returned to seek vengeance against the gods. Only a true knight, wielding the holy relics of the divine Crusader, has a chance to defeat Umril.
And tell me more about this pilgrimage I have to do.
Walking the Pilgrim's Way is the traditional start of a holy quest. Follow the map I gave you, visit the way shrines of the 9, pray, and wait for a sign.
Okay. Seems simple enough.
May the 8 and 1 guide your steps.
So, we've got a new map he gave us, I thought. Is there like a sort by date we got things? Wow, it scrolls up without me having to scroll. That's interesting. I didn't pay attention. There it is, Way Shrines map. I was like, I didn't pay attention to what it was called, and that's now a problem. Okay, RK is nearby. We found one of them, I think. If you wish to repent of your sins and rededicate your life to the gods, pray at the way shrines of the 9. May the 9 hear your prayers and look upon you with tender loving kindness. Yeah, I think we won't rush to do these, but if we're in the area,
is there?
Are they marked on the map? Doesn't look like it. So we had one over here by Bruma, I thought. So no, they're not marked on the map, which is a bit awkward. Can I make my own marks? I can make one mark. That's... yeah. Okay. So no, I can just put a single marker. So there's one nearby. Let's find that one and mark it so that while we're in the area. So sort of between these two cities is the Way Shrine of Archay at the top of that road. Go to the map. So like around here-ish.
No one who would stand for the Nine.
What's your story?
I'm Hassathil, Heinrich Oakenhull's wife.
Tell me about Anvil.
The life of a sailor's wife isn't an easy one. Heinrich is at sea 9 months out of 10. But Anvil's a friendly town, and the Nine console me.
And any rumors?
Captain Dougal's rumored treasure has to be true. I wonder if the first Count of Anvil found it.
Okay. Map marker added.
Farewell.
So we've got something...
Cyrodiil, come!
some treasure to find. Let's see what's going on in the chapel. Alright, yeah, there's a lot of blood. We can search the bodies. I'm certainly not messing with a crime scene. It's fine. Don't worry. Oh, we can't pray at the altars. Why is that one on fire? Oh, those are the runes in question. Got it. Should there be one here? No, that's just a fire. Like, did they break down an entire altar? Alright. Yes, we obviously can't read the writing. Question is, does the way in or out come from one of these other directions? Shazar and the Divines. Shazar and the Divines. Position Shazar enjoys in Cyrodiil worship is often misconstrued. He and 1,000 other deities have sizable cults in the Imperial City. Shazar is especially venerated in the Colovian West, though he is called Shor there. And the West kings are resolutely and religiously Nordic. Not familiar with Shazar. The haziness of Shazar's relationship to the Divines, he is often called their missing sibling, begins with Saint Alessia, the so-called slave queen of Cyrodiil, the founder figure of the original Cyrodiilic Empire. In the earliest Syro-Nordic stories of the Heartland, Shazar fought against the Aelids, the Heartland High Elves, on mankind's behalf. Then, for some unknown reason, he vanished from the stage, presumably to help other humans elsewhere, and without his leadership, the Aelids conquered the humans and enslaved them. This slavery lasted for generations. The isolated humans eventually began to venerate the pantheon of their masters, or at least assimilate so much of High Elven religious practices into their native traditions that the two become indistinguishable. In 1E242, so first era, 242, under the leadership of Alessia, her demigod lover Morehouse Breathe of Kine, and the infamous Perennial Whitestrake, the Cyrodiilic humans revolt. When Skyrim lends its armies to the slave queen of the south, the revolution succeeds. Aeliad hegemonies are quickly overthrown. Shortly thereafter, the White Gold Tower is captured by Alessia's forces, and she promptly declares herself the first Empress of Cyrodiil. Part of the package meant that she had to become the High Priestess of Akatosh as well. Akatosh was an Aldmeri god, and Alessia's subjects were as yet unwilling to renounce their worship of the Elven pantheon. She found herself in a very sensitive political situation. She needed to keep the Nords as her allies, but they were, at the time, fiercely opposed to any adoration of elven deities. On the other hand, she could not force her subjects to revert back to the Nordic pantheon for fear of another revolution. Therefore, concessions were made, and Empress Alessia instituted a new religion, the Eight Divines, an elegant, well-researched synthesis of both pantheons, Nordic and Aldmeri. Shazar, as a result, had to change. He could no longer be the bloodthirsty anti-Aldmer warlord of old. He could not disappear altogether either, or the Nords would have withdrawn their support of her rule. In the end, he had become the spirit behind all human undertaking. Even though this was merely a thinly disguised, watered-down version of Shor, it was good enough for the Nords. As for why Tiber Septim has not attempted to revitalize Shazar during his wars against the Aldmeri Dominion, we can only speculate that at the time, memories of the Alessian Order's follies, the Dragon Break, the War of Righteousness, the defeat of Gelnumbria Moors, would only damage his campaign for the Imperial Crown. Okay. So, the Aldmeri are High Elves, if I'm understanding that. I don't think I ever really figured out who they were, or how they fit into it, just that they're not around anymore. But they're just a grouping of Altmer. The Song of Perennial. Volume 1 on his name. Editor's note, volumes 1 to 6 are taken from the so-called Roman manuscript located in the Imperial Library. It is a transcription of older fragments collected by an unknown scholar of the early Second Era. Beyond this, little is known of the original sources of these fragments, some of which appear to be from the same period, perhaps even from the same manuscript. But as no scholarly consensus yet exists on dating these 6 fragments, no opinion will be offered here. That he took the name Perennial was passing strange, no matter his later sobriquets, which were many. That was an elvish name, and Perennial was a scourge on the race, and not much given to irony. Perennial was much too grim for that. Even in youth, he wore white hair, and trouble followed him. Perhaps his enemies named Perennial of their own in their tongue, but that is doubtful, for it means glorious knight, and he was neither to them. Certainly, many others added to that name during his days in Tamriel. He was Perennial the White Strake because of his left hand, made of a killing light. He was Perennial the Bloody, for he drank it in victory. He drank blood? Gross. He was Perennial Insurgent, because he gave the Crusades a face. He was Perennial in Triumph, as the words eventually became synonymous, and men-at-arms gave thanks to the Eight when they saw his banner coming through war. He was Perennial the Blamer, for he was quick to admonish those allies of his that favored tactics that ran counter to his, that is, sword theory. And he was Perennial the Third, though whether this was because some said he was a god geyser who had incarnated twice before already, or that simpler, he was the third vision given to Perif Anon Alessia in her prayers of liberation before he walked among the quarters of rebellion, is unknown. Sorry about that. Argonian Account Book 2. Not going to read that one. It's 16 pages. Just saw it's reasonably valuable, and so thought it might be interesting. The Song of Perennial. It has pictures. How weird. Well, a picture. On his battle with Umoril and his dismemberment, this fragment contains manuscripts recovered from the ruins of Alessian Order's monastery at Lake Canalus, which dates it to some time prior to the War of Righteousness, 1 era 2321. However, textual analysis suggests that this fragment actually preserves a very early form of the song, perhaps from the mid-6th century. And so after many battles with Umaril's allies, where dead Aurorans lay like candlelight around the throne, the Perennial became surrounded by the last Ayleid sorcerer kings and their demons, each one heavy with Varlians, The white strake cracked the floor with his mace, and they withdrew, and he said, "Bring me Umril that called me out." And while mighty in his aspect and wicked, deathless golden Umril favored ruin from afar over close combat, and so he tarried in the shadows of the White Tower before coming forth. More soldiers were sent against Perennial to die, and yet they managed to pierce his armor with axes and arrows, for Umril had wrought each one by long varlians, which he had been hoarding since his first issue of Challenge. Presently, the half-elf showed himself bathed in Meridian's light. He listed his bloodline in the Aliadun and spoke of his father, a god of the previous Kalpa's World River, and taking great delight in the heavy breathing of Perennial, who had finally bled, text lost, and Umril was laid low. The angel face of his helm dented into an ugliness which made Perennial laugh, and his unfeathered wings broken off with sword strokes delivered while Perennial stood frothing above him, insulting his ancestry and anyone else that took ship from old Elnofe, which angered the other elvish kings and drove them to a madness of their own, and they fell on him, speaking to their weapons, cutting the Perennial into eighths, while he roared in confusion, which even the Council of Skiffs could hear, text lost, ran when Moore shook the whole of the tower with mighty bashing from its horns. The next morning, and some were slain in overabundance in the taking, and men looked for more Aliads to kill, but Perennial had left none save those kings and demons that had already begun to flee. It was Morehouse who found the white strake's head, which the kings had left to prove their deeds, and they spoke, and Perennial said things of regrets, but the rebellion had turned anyway, and more words were said between these immortals that even the Paravant would not deign to hear. Weird. Oh, there's all of them. 7, 3, 4, maybe not all. 8, 5, 6. Volume 1. Yeah, you can read most of that song there. Amulet of Kings, we've read that. So I assume this is where the priest... Okay, that was a skill book. 22 pages, though. Conjuration. I will take it. I assume this is where the priest would stay. Trials of St. Alessia. Mostly I'm thinking there's got to be another way into this place that the enemies came through. Perennial's death. So yeah, all this stuff is just a whole bunch of books about Perennial. And I guess the Amulet of Kings. But nothing in here looks like it would have been a secret way in. And I don't know if there is going to be anything to see, but since so many people mentioned how on earth did they get in and out without being seen by the guards, my assumption would be that there is something of note here to see. Oh, hi there, you. Oh, out of magic. We'll just give a moment for my magic to recharge. Sanctified Dead. Sure. So we've got Ancient Sanctified Dead and Sanctified Dead. And the Sanctified Dead are apparently tougher because they took 2 hits. We've got another altar down here. Alright. Right, there were 2 doors that led down here. That's what that is. Okay. Gross sewer. No, but I don't see any route in or out that's obvious. So yeah, not sure how someone could have gotten in, killed everyone, and gotten out without being spotted. Because I didn't see any other hidden passages in or out. Well, that's fine.
Is there no one?
So I guess with that, what do we have quest-wise that I would be wanting to do? We've got Pilgrimage. There's a nearby shrine that we could check out. I need to go to the Brina Cross Inn, which is where? Here. And look into that rogue mage. Right. I need to go to Fort Strand here to find your relic. Yeah, we got a bunch of quests here. This is the... Right, that's the vampire hunter. Alright, so that's everything we've found so far in Anvil. There's probably more, since there's a bunch of areas we haven't visited. But I think that's enough things to start with. So, of everything here, probably Fort Strand is the closest. Then we can swing up to Brina Cross Inn and then head up to there. Seems reasonable to me. So Fort Strand was back tucked down here. Kind of in this direction. Ah, there it is. You can see it on the compass. So this is supposed to be a group of bandits or marauders or something that her husband got involved in. She doesn't know if he's still alive, but she wants her family heirloom back. Hopefully you're not the husband. Silver Warhammer. Did I ever find a place to sell... Take the mithril. To sell my inventory. Or am I still... No, I've got a good amount of carrying capacity. There are probably things I could sell. Some. But it's probably alright for one dungeon. So here we are at Fort Strand. Is there anyone else around?
To arms! To arms!
There is. Silver battle axe. So we're getting to the point where people are starting to drop silver, which is still far too heavy. Which I guess isn't terribly surprising. Silver is heavy. I like the mithril gear, though. 3 pounds for 65 gold. Yeah. So we could go in. I want to make sure there's nothing else around here of note. Oh, there's a chest. There, just making sure I didn't take fall damage. Grab both of those. And then I think because we're basically at the 30-minute mark, which is where I normally try and end. Sometimes I go a lot over. It'll be a bit of a short episode, but I think this is a fine place to stop, and next time I'll actually head into Fort Strand and see what's going on. So thank y'all for watching, and I will see you guys then. Bye.